You're not always going to have the grace period of being able to bleed in front of people before you get into the situation of building a relationship with them. If who you are is not enough for that person, for that situation, for that moment, you don't need it and it wasn't meant for you. I know that building trust can be difficult, but it does absolutely start and end with honesty. It's also going to require that you sacrifice your need to be a victim in that moment. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to lesson 1. And yes, we are talking about trust first because if you ask me, it is one of the greatest things that we have got to get under wraps before going into a relationship. Probably the greatest thing, honestly. I am one of the people that definitely subscribe to the belief that if you ain't got trust, you ain't got nothing, right? You have to have trust. And so we've got to figure out how we build that, because sometimes it can be hard to build trust in a relationship, or to know how to do that, or to know if you can trust the person, right? And it can be difficult sometimes to break through old things that have happened to us that kind of damage our ability or impair our ability to lend trust to our partner in a relationship, or to even communicate to our partner that they can trust us, because maybe we've deceived people in the past. And so we feel kind of a way about ourselves because we've broken that trust before, or, we want to communicate that to a partner who maybe has had their trust broken before. So let's get started. Building trust. Building trust is huge, okay? It is huge, and it has to be built. I didn't just say trusting your partner, because it's not just about trusting your partner or just about being trustworthy. Trust has to be built over time. It is not something that is just naturally there. It's not just a given. It's not, just a part of the package when you get into a relationship. It's not. It's just not. You will have to build trust over time. A lot of people will approach relationships saying, okay, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to trust that you are whoever you present yourself to be ahead of time. Just don't break my trust. And even for those people, in order for that to be supported, you have to do some things so that they know, okay, this person is who they say that they are. This person does deserve to have the benefit of the doubt. This person can be trusted and does deserve my trust. Because yes, trust is something that has to be deserved. Because everyone does not deserve your trust. Because everyone's not trustworthy. And it just is what it is. Okay? So not only does it have to be built, it also has to be maintained. And, on the other side, there are some people that's going to come into a relationship not giving you any sort of benefit of the doubt, not trusting you because they have gone through some things in their past that's going to impair their ability to just start off with a certain level of trust, which let's pause right there for a second and let's talk about that. If you have experienced issues in past relationships, whether romantic, familial, platonic friendships, whatever the case is, business relationships, doesn't matter. If you have dealt with trust being broken in other relationships and you know that you carry that, it is your responsibility and duty to deal with that before going into a romantic relationship. Before trying to build something with someone else, you are responsible for making sure that you deal with those things. You have to heal. You guys are going to hear me talk a lot about healing throughout this entire process, because there are things when it comes to relationships that sometimes just leave us broken or damaged or fractured or whatever the case is. And so we have to heal. Healing is our responsibility and our duty, first to ourselves and then to the people around us, especially those who are going to come at a subsequent time in our lives after we've endured the injury, after we've sustained the injury and the pain of that last situation that caused us this hurt in the first place. Remember, again, the healing is your duty and responsibility to you first, so that you can show up as your best self, as your greatest self, and in full capacity, so that the world around you gets to meet you, but also so that you can enjoy you at your best, okay? And if you're going into a relationship, you always want to go with your best foot forward. It's not always going to be that you're in a situation where people are going to just happen to get to know you and learn your heart and know that, oh, you've been through some things, but you're still a good person at heart or whatever. And then it just blossoms over time. It's not always going to be that. You're not always going to have the grace period of being able to bleed in front of people before you get into the situation of building a relationship with them. So you need to make sure you are healing so that when you do encounter people, even if it's not a romantic relationship, whatever the case is, you want to make sure that you've got your stuff under wraps. All right. So back to doing this trust thing. Okay. Build it and maintain it. All right. Because it is probably the hardest thing to recover, if ever lost, in any relationship. If you are in a relationship and something happens to break your trust, it's an uphill battle from there. You're not just kind of going on this even plane anymore. It's it's not just a little, maybe a little bit of a hill here. We're climbing mountains at this point. We're climbing mountains. I know that you've been in relationships before. I know you've dealt with this before, so you understand what I'm saying. If you build trust and you maintain it, you will do yourself justice. If you allow that trust to be broken by any means, it is not that the relationship cannot be recovered, because it can. Okay, I am a firm believer that relationships can come back from just about anything. What I am saying, though, is once that trust has been broken, there's a lot that has to go into recovering it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this. Okay? Trust has everything to do with vulnerability, fear, and pain. Now, I know that V word for some of y'all is a cuss word. It's a don't say that word. It's a taboo topic. But vulnerability is what fuels honesty and transparency, which are necessary for trust to be built. You have to be transparent. You have to be open. You have to be honest. You have to be upfront. You have to be clear about things. We're not hiding stuff. We're not keeping no secrets. We're not covering stuff up. We're not omitting information. Even the ugly stuff, even the stuff that we are not proud of. And like we talked about in the intro, even those things that, we're still reconciling within ourselves. Even that stuff about ourselves that gives us a little bit of grief. Our weaknesses, our shortcomings, we're bringing all of those to the table. Because we have to be able to show up as who we are so that the person that we are connecting with can trust that they are getting the true version of us, that they are getting us as we actually authentically are and not a representative. Speaking of which, I'm just go ahead and jump to this part, okay? Because it's later in these notes somewhere, but I'm going to jump to it. If you show up to a relationship with your representative facing forward, your relationship is doomed. Flat line, flat line, flat line. It's doomed. Because if you come with a mask on, you're going to always have to keep that mask on. You're going to have to continue to pretend. You're going to have to continue to convince the other person that you are this representative. And the truth is, you're not going to be able to do that. Facades are not meant to be kept up forever. And there's no way that you're going to be able to hide behind this false identity. And you shouldn't want to. Let's just talk about it. You should not want to. You don't want people to fall in love with the person that you're not. If you want people to love you, if you want to build relationships with people, you have to give them the opportunity to choose and decide for themselves if who you are is for them. This translates across relationships, okay? Across all relationships. I remember in the days of me trying to reconcile with all parts of my identity and feeling like I just wanted me to be enough. It gave me grief because I would feel like I needed to show up a certain way for certain people at certain times. And I'm just like, I just want to be able to be me and I want that to be okay. And so it took me some time to really reconcile with all parts of me and to say, hey, you're going to like it or not, like it or leave it, love me or not, whatever. But here I am. So I get it. I understand that sometimes, there's this like push to be something because it's what you think is necessary for the moment. But let me tell you this, if who you are is not enough for that person, for that situation, for that moment, you don't need it and it wasn't meant for you. Because every space and every person and every situation that you are called to is already set up and made to receive you for who you are, just as you are. It wasn't made for the pretend version of you, for this false version of you, for this fake identity piece of you. It was made for you, the way that you were created and meant to be. So I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but I feel like I can't really drive this piece home enough because who you fake to be is not going to get you in the spaces that you need to be in. It's not going to get you in the relationship that you need to be in. It's going to get you in some relationships with something that you ain't even supposed to be in. It's going to get you in a relationship that you have to continue to pretend to be whomever to qualify for this relationship or for this person to receive you, accept you, and love you. And what kind of situation is that? What kind of love is that? What kind of relationship is that? If you can't authentically be yourself, why would you go into a relationship as anyone other than you? How can you truly benefit from that relationship if you show up as anyone other than you? And what will happen if you show up in that relationship as anyone other than yourself is that the person on the other side will feel, once they find out that you are not who you say you are or who you're pretending to be, that they cannot trust you. And they will wonder, what else is this person lying about? Or is our entire relationship a lie? Is any of this real? Is any of this true? If you can convince me that you are a whole other person, maybe you've convinced me that you love me and you don't. Maybe you are pretending to have my best interest in heart, but you don't. Everything then will become questionable. That person will begin to regret leaning into their vulnerability, overcoming their fears, and subjecting themselves to pain because you were dishonest. When you do that, you also go around leaving bodies in your trail and along the path on your journey. Broken, shattered hearts, stagnant people, people who decide to get off the train completely because if this is love, I don't want it. And you are damaging the chances of really good people finding a good partner. So just for the good of us all, I beg you to be comfortable with who you are and to show up in every relationship as yourself. And again, that person, that situation, that place, that relationship that you are called to, the one that is for you, you are perfect for it. It was made for you and it will receive you. So there's no need to pretend. Honesty is the best policy. When we were younger, that was the phrase. Honesty is the best policy. It truly is. And honesty is not just telling the truth, answering questions accurately. It is actually authentically being yourself. Okay? We want to be genuine. We want to be transparent. We want to be open. It's for our good and for the good of those we are in the relationship with. All right? If they allow you into their heart, into their mind, into their spirit, into their lives, you have a responsibility and a duty to take care of that. They've given you a power beyond any other power, and that is a power to break them by leaning into you and trusting you. They are giving you the power to change the way that they see the world, they see life, they see love, they see relationships, they see people. And so you have to be responsible with what you do with that power. Power is something that everybody can't handle. But when it's given to you, you step up to the plate. And you don't leave people questioning themselves, doubting themselves, wondering if they can trust themselves now because they gave all of their trust to someone who actually wasn't who they said they were. All too often, I hear the stories of my clients and candidates who talk about how their trust was broken in a relationship. I know that building trust can be difficult, but it does absolutely start and end with honesty. You have to tell the truth and you have to be honest with your partner at all times. In situations where you're caught in the middle of a discussion and you feel that you can't fully honestly answer the question at that moment, it's better to ask to table that discussion for later than it is to tell a lie or to omit information. So it's okay to say to your partner, this may not be the time for that conversation. I really don't feel comfortable having that conversation right now or answering that question at this time. Can you trust that I will share that with you when the time is right? Thank you for asking about that. I appreciate your interest and your curiosity, but do you mind if we table this discussion for later? I'd really like to gather my thoughts before discussing this topic. I just need to be sure that what I share with you is the full and honest truth and not what I would want to share out of fear of you judging me or out of fear in general. Because that fear could be being judged, it could be being misunderstood, it could be a fear of that person breaking up with you or leaving you. It could be a fear of being exposed because you were vulnerable and transparent and shared your business with someone. Lots of things could be tied to that, right? Because one thing we don't do is what? Lie and be dishonest. And another thing we don't do is straight up just tell people stuff raw off the top. No, 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 no. We're going to gather our understanding and our thoughts and what we want to say and what we need to say. And we're going to deliver that information appropriately, especially when you're talking about sticky stuff that can make or break a situation. Because what happens if the trust is broken? You're starting over from ground zero, right? All the way over. And if that does happen in your relationship, please understand that if the person decides to stay with you after you've broken their trust, you have to be patient with them as they build themselves back up to a place of being able to trust you. You don't get to decide how long that takes. You don't get to decide what that looks like. You don't get to tell them that they should be over it or they should trust you because you really know that you're not going to do the same thing again, or you really are sorry, or you really didn't mean to hurt them. You don't get to tell them why they can't hold on or shouldn't hold on to them. You don't get to blame them for the relationship taking a turn because they are still working on rebuilding that trust. You don't get to say to them, well, we could be farther along, but we're stuck, we're stagnant because you won't trust me. We could be further along, but you don't get to point the finger. You have to be accountable for the situation that you created. And I know this sounds sticky, which again is why we don't even want to get into these situations, right? Because taking accountability for causing somebody else pain, for causing them hardship, for stagnating our relationship, for causing interruption, for things not being able to move forward, is something we don't really want to deal with. And you don't get to take your frustrations and your feelings out on them if they aren't moving at the pace that you want them to after you have made the offense in the relationship that's caused the trust to be broken. Now, on the other hand, if you are the person who chooses to stay in a relationship with someone after your trust has been broken, You do have to choose to let go and to forgive, and you cannot hold them hostage to those offenses forever. You have to actively do the work to heal from the deception or the letdown or the disappointment or whatever it is that violation or offense was. You cannot hold them hostage to that behavior, to that act, if you are going to choose to move forward. Because what happens then is that the relationship is going to be stagnated. Because we'll keep circling back to that time when, well, remember you did. Well, we were good, but you. Because then you are then pointing the finger and placing the blame. And while we are going to hold people accountable for what they did, we're not going to hold people hostage to those mistakes if we choose to stick around. Now, if someone breaks your trust and you're like, that's it for me, I'm out the door, okay, go right ahead. Feel how you want to feel about the situation, but still you have a responsibility to heal from that so that you don't carry that into your next situation. But you don't have to deal with the issue of that reoccurring in that situation while you're getting to know this person or while you're building a relationship with them. And again, though, if you do choose that option, you have to be willing to let it go, and you have to actively do the work to let it go. And if you find yourself in a place where you cannot let something go, I would encourage you to really evaluate why you're still there. That may help you let it go, or it may help you decide, you know what, I shouldn't be here. Therapy is good. Coaching is good to help in these situations, to figure out how to let things go, to move forward if that is your goal. And that, again, will require vulnerability. It will require forgiveness, and it will require sacrifice. You're going to have to open yourself up again to potentially being let down again. But that is the process of building trust. And if you're choosing to stay there, your responsibility is to build trust, to improve your relationship, to better it, to give it a firm foundation to stand on. You will have to forgive that person. And again, of course, we all deal with not wanting to forgive things and people because we feel like it gives people a pass for what they've done to us, or it tells them that it's okay. But that's not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness says, you did do something that did harm me. I did not like it. But because I want this to work, or because I love you, or because I believe you deserve another chance, or because I simply want to be free from the stain of this situation, I am going to choose to release it. But I'm going to hold you accountable and tell you that it's never okay for you to do that again. And if you do, then I'm going to have to move accordingly. And it's going to require that you sacrifice your comfort. It's also going to require that you sacrifice your need to be a victim in that moment. It's going to require that you sacrifice your desire to be right or to be justified or to feel like you have something on that other person that's going to keep them in lock or in a certain position or in your control. Because the truth is, we can't control anyone. We can't control anyone. People have to make decisions on their own. And you don't want to control anyone. You want your partner to make the choice daily to be with you and to do right by you and to invest and to be intentional in that relationship. If you ever get to a point where you feel like you're having to do anything to control their behavior, something is wrong and you need to immediately stop and evaluate what is going on in that situation. Because something has turned for the worse. And if you don't course correct, no words, right? Because that's it. You are literally just going to go down the wrong path until you crash. And the relationship will be over. And honestly, you don't have to do that. If the relationship is over, just let it be over. You don't have to spend a long time going down the wrong road to already end up at the same dead end you were going to end up at anyway. Save yourself the trouble. Save yourself the pain. Save your partner the trouble and the pain. And let it be done. So now we're going to talk about some ways to foster trust in a relationship. And these include showing up when you say you will, being dependable, doing what it is that you say that you are going to do, offering support, and delivering that support. And we've already talked about this, but I'm going to say it again. Be who you say you are. Okay? Be authentic. Now, I'm not saying that you show up to a relationship on day one with all of your stuff on display. That's not healthy. That's not appropriate. That's not okay. You don't jump on the first date and tell the person your life story with all the ugly twists, turns, and details. That's irresponsible. That's not transparency. You don't go dumping on the first date. Don't go dumping your stuff on the first date. Okay? Now, this next one, I need you to be consistent. Consistency is key. We hear that all the time. That cannot be any more true for relationships than it is for anything else. Consistency builds trust. If I know you're going to be who I know you're going to be, and you continue to be who I know you're going to be, I can trust that. Think about your favorite barber or your favorite salon stylist or your favorite nail tech or your favorite clothing store or your favorite restaurant. You frequent these places and these people and these services because they are consistent, and you know when you show up, you're going to get what it is that you're looking for. Same is true in a relationship. You have to know that when you meet up with that person in the dating process, that you're going to consistently get the same person. You need to know that when you wake up next to this person in that relationship, that you're going to meet the same person. That there's not going to be a question of who are you today. We're not trying to be in relationships with boxes of chocolate. Okay? Not knowing what the next day is going to bring. Be consistent. Do what you're going to do. And don't start something you know you cannot keep up. That is where I see a lot of people struggle. I hear stories and it's like, oh, in the beginning, this person did X, Y, and Z. And then one day it stopped. In the beginning, they pursued me, but then they got comfortable and stopped. In the beginning, blase blah. When you do that, you create an appetite. When you do anything, you create an appetite for it within that other person. And when you stop showing up as that person, when you stop doing those same things, you leave them hungry, looking for more, wanting more, desiring more, expecting more. And when you don't deliver, then you let them down. And then they start to wonder, well, what is this? They start to question you and the relationship because it's not what it was before. It's not what I'm used to. It's not what I saw or experienced in the beginning. So don't start things that you cannot keep up. If you can't maintain it, don't do it. Don't do it. And that's not to say you can't do something nice for a person every now and then and say, hey, this was a moment where I felt like I really should do something nice for you. It may not be something I can do all the time, but I thought it definitely was necessary in this moment. You want to build trust? Have people around you who can vouch for your character. People from different areas of your life who can honestly share with that person who you are. And not in like an inquisitive form, like, hey, let me question you about Johnny. Let me ask you about Sue. But those people who will be around you naturally, who will be able to consistently share the same things about you. Oh, how long have you and Tom been dating? Oh, that's so great. Tom is such a good guy. He's always caring about other people and doing for other people and putting people before him. And those messages consistently come up across the board in different crowds because it's who you are. Never put your person in any compromising situations. If you know it's not going to go well, if you think it might not go well, just stay away from it. Just avoid it altogether. Just don't approach, don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Because if you end up putting that person in a compromising situation and they feel threatened or uncomfortable or not at ease, then they're not going to feel safe with you. And they're not going to trust themselves around you, or they're not going to trust you to take them anywhere or to put them in any kind of situation again because they don't know what's going to come of it. Your partner has to be able to trust you, believe in you, and feel safe and secure with you. That is a must for any successful relationship. Without those things, you leave doors open and windows cracked for stuff to come in to destroy the relationship, those thoughts, those feelings, other people. And you don't want that. You don't want that. You want that person to be able to give you all of themselves and to know that they are good and that that is a good decision to make. And when it comes to trust, if you're building a relationship, the other person needs to be able to trust the decisions that you make. They need to be able to trust the decisions that you make for yourself, for them, and for your lives together. If I can't trust your decision making, I can't fully lean in. Safety is a very big part of trust. I have to know that I'm safe with you. I have to know that you have my best interest at heart. I have to know that you're going to make responsible decisions. And if you're taking a risk, it's a calculated risk. It's one that's going to make some sense. And it's not something that's being done just because you're impulsive or because you don't know what else to do and you're just trying to do something. You've got to give your partner something to depend on, something to lean on, something to believe in, something to secure them emotionally and mentally in that relationship. And a final note on consistency. Consistency creates rhythms. You need to have a rhythm in your relationship. And I'm not talking about monotony. I'm not talking about being rigid. I'm not talking about the same thing every day, all the time. But I am talking about a flow. You and your partner have to get into a flow that works for you. When you are consistent, that flow can be created much more easily than it can be if you are not consistent. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get together this week or not. I don't know if we're spending time together or not. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. There's all this apprehension, curiosity, what's the word? Lack of assurance when you're not consistent. And you don't want that. You want to diminish the amount of questions related to your relationship as much as possible. If there's something to be questioned, you got a loose end that need to be tightened up. If things are being questioned, there is a loose end that needs to be tightened up. There was something that was left undone. There was something that wasn't carefully taken care of. There should be no questions. Communication is key in that. And of course, we're going to talk about communication later. The next lesson is on communication and hard conversations. Hard conversations are a natural part of any relationship. So we absolutely have to talk about those because sweeping them under the rug and avoiding them, it's not going to cut it. And hard conversations are actually very healthy. Very, very healthy for relationships. You have to have those to get to know the other person, to build the relationship, to grow in the connection. Before we close out this lesson, I want you to do something for homework. This is your action item for the week because I don't want to give you this information and then not give you a way to make sure that you are using the information, okay? So what I need for you to do is I need for you to figure out where you might fall short in the trust department. Is it hard for you to be honest? Is it hard for you to share certain things? Is it hard for you to be transparent? Is it hard for you to present your best with your best foot forward all the time? Is it hard for you not to show up with a representative at the forefront of every situation because you want to make sure people like and receive you? Whatever it is, we got to deal with it. I want you to identify what things may be standing in your way of being able to naturally build trust with a partner, and even to on the receiving end of building trust, right? Because there's two parts. You are the one who's doing something so that the other person can trust you, and then on the other end, you are the person who is having to trust the other person and receive what they are doing. So what's on that end where it comes to you receiving from of the other person and being able to trust them? I need you to work out those things as well. I need you to identify what they are so that you can get them dealt with, addressed, whatever, okay, taken care of before you move into another situation where the foundation is non-existent because trust is an issue. Okay, because building and maintaining trust is an issue, because remember, we have to build it and maintain it. That is our responsibility and our duty. Where might you have issue with being able to be who you need to be and do what you need to do to effectively build trust in a relationship? Write those things out. Be honest with yourself. Be transparent with yourself. Be open with yourself. It starts with us. All of the things that we're talking about here in this entire course, they all start with us. We have to be able to do it with us first. We have to love us first. We have to know how to trust ourselves. We have to know how to build trust within ourselves. We need to know how to communicate with ourselves, etc., etc. Okay? So that is your action item for the week. What is it that you need to deal with in order to be prepared, in order to be ready for that next relationship? Being able to go into it fully, building trust and setting a firm foundation. All right. I'll see you in lesson 2.